In my D&D group, we all take turns DMing for each other, trying our hands at running campaigns. However, with work and life, I found it difficult to keep up with DMing campaigns. I'm good at putting a lot of time and energy into a single session, not as good at spacing that out over a larger period of time. That's why Strixhaven's been so good for me. Finally, a low-stress campaign that I can run. But what do you do when you want to DM, but don't have the time to keep up an entire campaign? Well, you run a one-shot, of course. I believe that my style of running one-shots is a little bit different from the advice you'd normally find. My players have joked that mine are more like HBO miniseries, so I figured I'd open up Premiere and tell you exactly how I run one-shots. Feel free to use, tweak, or ignore anything I say. Let's get into it. For me, it all starts with an idea. Inspiration from a game or a movie I enjoy, a game mechanic I want to play with, or sometimes just a funny line. For example, let's start with the line, "The prince lost the engagement ring, which if not found will end in war." Normally the advice from DMs would then be something along the lines of, now create a series of steps to find the ring. The more steps you put in, the longer the game will be. You might have the players make whatever characters they wish, put them in a tavern, and have the prince run in looking scared. He needs the ring found, and will give the party anything to retrieve it. They have to go investigate where he was last seen, track down a servant that was seen in the area, witness or give it to a duke from another nation, and stop him before he causes war. And that's a fun idea, don't get me wrong. But when I DM, I like to add a little bit more complexity to the puzzle. I like to look at my concepts and then take a step back. Who is this prince and what kingdom is he part of? Why would losing the ring cause a war? Couldn't they just get another ring? Who are the players in all this? Why did the prince realize that he lost his ring and then run out of the castle to find the first band of misfits he saw? So let's build on that line, fixing one problem at a time. The conflict is there, but it's not very clear. Let's say this is an engagement between two warring nations, and it needs to go smoothly to end the conflict. Instead of an engagement, let's make it a wedding. That has potential for more drama, and we can keep the players in a single location, which will help to make the pacing a little bit quicker. In fact, while I like the lost ring, and it will be a problem for the players to solve, a wedding between two nations looking for peace getting called off because someone misplaced a ring is a little silly. I think the main conflict should be that everything is going wrong. The rings are missing, the dress is stained, and the fierce general is getting drunk and starting to boast about the battles they've won against the other nation. But who are the players in all this? Why do they care? I like to give my players a buy-in, some restriction for them to abide by when making characters. In this case, let's have them work inside the castle this wedding is taking place in. Maybe they're the captain of the crown's guard, the royal librarian, or even the royal gardener. There. That's a pretty solid starting ground for your players to start making characters with. But it's very important to note what we actually have so far. We have a setting, a conflict, and a buy-in. That's it. We haven't made any NPCs, started writing any scenes. We have a few ideas, but the actual narrative needs to be based on your players' choices, who they bring to the table. In my case, when I ran this one-shot, my players all decided to make pretty interesting characters. One of them decided to play a fairy, another a tiefling, and the third a rabbit folk. This starts to help us understand what kind of nation this is, and helps us develop our conflict a little better. Let's say that the hoity-toity elven kingdom ruled over all for a long time. 1,000 years ago, some of the monstrous creatures from the forest rose up in open rebellion. The players all serve King Ver, a bugbear who finally wants to bring peace and prosperity to a slow developing nation. The wedding will take place in King Ver's castle in the forest. Now it's all about introducing characters and conflict for the party to solve. We can use some of our earlier ideas to help with this. For example, because it might be funnier, let's put the groom in the other kingdom and give the players the bride. She is Duchess Palelegs, a quiet goblin. She accidentally spilled something on herself, and an enchantment that was supposed to make the dress glimmer and shine now instead dyes the dress a cobalt blue. Let's make the general the king's sister, Lady Stin. She'll start to drink, and when she does, she'll start reminiscing about ripping elven spines from their bodies a little too loudly. And because all this came from the idea of missing rings, let's throw that in there too. As a show of good faith, the elves had brought the rings, but now they're gone. A few people have entered and left the room, and any one of them could have it. Now we're getting somewhere. The conflict is very clear. It's the player's responsibility to solve the problems going on to make sure the ceremony doesn't end in conflict. And if they fail to do that, they get a pretty large combat between themselves and the elves. But there's still two issues. What's causing all these problems on the day of the wedding, and how can we give our players an opportunity to use their new fun characters in combat if everything goes smoothly? This is where we introduce one final faction to complete the puzzle, the Orcs. They're a separate nation who've lost a lot at the hands of the elves. They're disgusted by the idea of peace, and so they sent one of their own to make sure it doesn't happen. Marshall Bogg, the orc who handles the horses and does castle maintenance work, he's the one sneaking around causing a lot of these issues. If the players fail, he sneaks away knowing peace will never come. If they succeed, he gives the signal, and the orcs that were hiding in the woods come out and storm the castle. There's also a chance the players could catch him, and who knows what'll happen. But basically, that's how I make one-shots. Come up with an idea, build it out into a setting, conflict, and buy-in, let the players have their fun making their characters, and then using those characters to build out the specifics of the setting and conflict. I like to run longer, fast-paced sessions, lots of things happening, lots of conflict, condensing the story and thrill of a longer campaign into a single session. I've run this exact one-shot before. I included a few more problems, and it took quite a while to play, but it was a lot of fun for everyone. If you like this, feel free to take these ideas and make them your own. But maybe one day I'll make a video detailing this one-shot in more depth. Thanks for watching. I really enjoy making D&D content, and the response I got to the Strixhaven video was amazing, so truly, thank you all for your super positive comments. I've got more D&D videos on the way. Thanks again.